Hello friends, welcome to the MOOCs on Entrepreneurship Development. We are touching upon the module number 1 part 2b in this specific video, and this is on creativity and innovation in entrepreneurship. In this video I will discuss about a new strategy, the blue ocean strategy as an innovation in entrepreneurship. This strategy, in fact, there is a very famous book, Blue Ocean Strategy. That is the name of the book. It is written by two authors, W. Chen Kim and Renee Bourbon, and this book was published by the Harvard Printing Press in 2005. In this specific book, the authors talk of a strategy, the blue ocean strategy. You see, when you talk of the corporate sector, you talk of the business, or you talk of the market, basically there is a lot of competition in the market. You want to buy, you want to make something, you want to produce something, the thing is already there in the market. So there is a cutthroat competition in the market, and they say there is a bloody red ocean. People are trying to cut the throat of another competitor, and they are trying to grab their share. So there is a bloody red ocean. Now this strategy says do not go into this red ocean, you think of the blue ocean. That means you do something new, you do something innovative in which there is no competition. So this talks of an innovation, making something new, and there is no competition at all. So the findings of research on the blue ocean strategy says it's a study of more than 30 industries studied, ranging from the hotels, cinema, retail, airlines, energy, computers, broadcasting, construction, automobile and steel. So a lot of industries they were covered. More than 150 strategic moves made by 150 companies from 1880 to 2000 they were studied. So the findings, they say the creation and the capturing of the blue oceans were achieved by the small and the large companies, by young and the old managers, by companies in the attractive and unattractive industries, by new entrants and established incumbents, by private and public companies, by companies in the low and high tech industries, and by the companies of diverse national origins. That means throughout the world people were they were experimenting with these blue ocean strategies, whether they had the small businesses or big businesses or different countries businesses, a lot of industries they were being covered. So it is like a universal phenomena basically. I gave the example of the nano car in my previous video also. So it was an innovation basically, innovation, and then it was a blue ocean strategy, because Mr. Ratan Tata thought that the people who are driving the scooters, so they are 70%, 80% in population. So he brought them into the car manufacturing, into the car driving category basically. So the people who were the non-customers for the car segment, they were made as the customers of the car segment. That was one of the principles of the blue ocean strategy. Another is this like T20 matches or the IPL. You see, when initially we had this cricket matches of 6 days in duration, the test matches. Now nobody has the time to see those 6 days test matches. So including a rest day. So then the rest day was removed. It became a 5 days test match. Now people do not have the time to watch this 5 days test matches. Then the 1 day test match, one day matches, 60 overs, then 50 overs. Then the concept of 20 matches, because they thought that people can spend 3 to 4 hours on watching cricket, but they cannot spend the entire day. So the people who were watching the footballs or the hockey matches, because they were running for from 2 to 3 hours only, so they wanted to capture that audience, those people who were watching the soccer and the football throughout the world because of the limited time. So then they brought them into the cricket watching segment category by having all these T20 matches. And then we had this IPL with all those masala and cheerleaders. So that was again a blue ocean strategy, that means bringing the non-customers and make them as your customers. So there are 3 underlying principles of the strategy. The first is do not compete in the existing market space. Instead, uncontested market space should be created. That means do something new, do something innovative, do not compete, do not run after the same thing, do something new, and then you have no competition. Do not beat the competition, instead the competition should be made irrelevant. Do not exploit the existing demand, instead you should create and capture the new demand. So think of the new demand, so think of the requirements which people need, and then make that thing. Now, if you distinguish between the red ocean and the blue ocean strategy, the red ocean strategy says compete in the existing market space. That means you do the same thing, make the same products, give the same services and compete over there. Blue ocean says create uncontested market space where there is no competition. Red ocean says beat the competition. The same product you can have better quality at the same price, or you can keep the same price, and you can reduce the price and little better quality, something like that, but stay over there. The blue ocean says make the competition irrelevant. The red ocean says focus on the existing customers. So, you can grab the share of other people, other competitors, but stay in the same horizon only. The blue ocean says focus on the non-customers and make them as your customers. Exploit existing demand. The blue ocean says create and capture the new demand. So, there is a value innovation which is the cornerstone of the blue ocean strategy. So, by implementing the value innovation, that means doing innovation keeping an eye on the value. So, the buyer's value is going up, but the cost should come down. So, they have this 4 action framework in which they talk of eliminating something, reducing something, raising something and then creating something to implement the blue ocean strategy. So, I will take another case study which is from the book, which is a case study of a circus company, Cirque du Soleil. It is one of the Canada's largest cultural exports. It was created in 1984 by a group of street performers. It is seen by about 150 million people in 300 cities of the world. In less than 20 years, the company has achieved a level of revenues which the global champions, that is the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, took more than 100 years to attain. And the growth was achieved in a declining industry, because circus is a declining industry, and they were able to become successful in the circus industry only. So, the other circuses, they were trying to get the share of one another by securing more famous clowns and lion tamers that raised the circus cost structure without substantially altering the circus experience. The result was the rising costs without rising revenues and decline in the overall circus demand. The Cirque du Soleil was neither an ordinary circus nor a classical theatre production. So, what they did was they combined the circus and the theatre. So, some things of the circus they were taken, some things of the theatre they were taken, a theme was given and they gave a new product basically, and it was a successful product. So, the company appealed to a whole new group of customers, adult and the corporate clients, who were prepared to pay a higher price than the traditional circuses. The company did not compete with the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, but created uncontested market space and made the competition irrelevant. The company gave the people fun and thrill of circus and the intellectual sophistication and artistic richness of the theatre, and hence redefined the problem itself. So, the company claims we have reinvented the circus. This is that 4 action framework of the Cirque du Soleil. So, what did they eliminate? They eliminated the star performers who were charging a lot of money, the animal shows, the oil concession says. They reduced the fun and humor. The chief fun was reduced, thrill and danger. They raised a unique venue, a very nice venue with the sofa sets and velvet, this thing, and they created a theme, a refined environment, artistic music and dance, and that is how they became a very successful company. Now, how can we apply this BUS for entrepreneurship? So, we have to increase the entrepreneurship inputs in the technical vocational education and training, and then the unemployment will come down. So, that is our value innovation. So, this could be a 4 action framework. So, what we can create? We can create a multi-tiered strategy for entrepreneurship promotion. That means we can have a lot of activities which promote entrepreneurship. Just by teaching subject of entrepreneurship in the curricula will not be helpful. So, there has to be a lot of activities at different levels for promoting entrepreneurship. We can create or we can set up the technology business incubators. We can have entrepreneurship innovation lab, where the people who are desirous of becoming entrepreneurs, they have they can go and experiment over there. Special instruction materials like video films, etc. What can be raised? Professional competence of the students, because right now they are good technically, but the interpersonal skills, the soft skills, they need to be raised. Networking with industries should be more. We can offer a PG in technological entrepreneurship, like let us say mechanical engineering. There could be a PG program in mechanical engineering entrepreneurship or a civil engineering entrepreneurship. What we can reduce? The traditional project work, we can make it a venture oriented project work. We can reduce the theory focus of teaching learning, and we can give more emphasis on the practical part, and eliminate the basic mindset towards the wage employment, that has got to be eliminated. So, if we follow this 4 action framework, I am very sure that the institutions, they can promote entrepreneurship in a very big way in their respective institutions. Thank you.